today's webinar now. Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Managing Green Handling Sites with DJI Dock 2. My name is Lu Mingxi. I'm the DJI Solution Engineer from the ANZ region. It's a pleasure to have you all here as we explore the latest innovation from DJI and how they are transforming the agriculture sector. And today, let's just go to next slide. And today we will be focusing on the DJI Dock 2, discussing its unique features and how it is revolutionizing automation in agriculture. Our session will be divided into three main parts. I will start a brief introduction and an in-depth overview of the DJI Dock 2. Following my presentation, we will hear from the Sensorem team. We have Cooper and Ed Boxer here. And they will share practical insight on how the DJI Dock is being applied in the agriculture industry. And after that, we will have a Q&A session. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, and we will do our best to address them. So if you have any further questions, just feel free to reach out to us through correspondence, and we will help you to sort it out. We hope this session will provide you with a deeper understanding of the DJI Dock 2 and its impact on agriculture. Okay, let's just from the beginning. So basically, you can see that this is the Dock timeline. We launched the Dock 1 in 2023 in April, and it's our first drone in the box solution. The Dock 1 can only be compatible with M30 Dock version. We are so lucky to receive the first Dock 2 at a very early stage in the beginning of this year, and we start the beta test with our partners in March to make sure that everything goes well before we officially commercialize it. And finally, we launched the Dock in April. Okay, let's just go to the next one. Speaking of the case scenarios, it achieves great success in security, patrol, search and rescue, first responder, and the obviously asset inspection with that zoom camera. And I have to admit a little bit more limitation from the geospatial side. So we understand that some end users really looking forward to something that's can also map rather than just focus on the inspection parts, and also accurate flight inspections. That's why we released Dock 2 in this year. So let's go to next one. So what's the difference between dock units themselves? As you can see, the dimension is really attractive improvement, and it's just about half the footprint of the Dock 1. And you can see the weight, 34 kilograms compared to 105 kilograms. And now it's feasible to just get one person to lift it up and deploy it anywhere you want. And you can then mount it to maximum operation range up to 10 kilometers compared to 7 kilometers. And for the return to sender system, we replaced the old pulling system from the rods and now to a V shape in the middle of the landing port, where the aircraft lands in and slides down into the correct position automatically. Besides of that, we are now using wireless charging system to improve the efficiency as well as the safety. So something improvements not just on size but also making it simpler, and so that it can perform in more harsh environments. Okay, let's just move to the next one. So the new models of the drones are specifically for the Dock 2 are the Matrix 3D and the Matrix 3TD. The size is significantly smaller compared with the M30T. The weight is just 1410 grams, but flight time is able to up to 50 minutes. It does not have full arms like the Mavic 3 Enterprise series, and that rigidity helps a little bit in the wind resistance, as well as a bit more with the maximum flight time. And we have a higher IP rating compared to Mavic 3 Enterprise series, which is the IP54. And speaking of the camera, with the standard Matrix 3D, we have the wide camera of a 4/3 inch CMOS 20 megapixel sensors capturing at 0.7 seconds with the mechanical shutter as well. So if you are looking for implementing really accurate mapping with the autonomous solution, this is really not up your alley. You can see that the specs of the M3D camera is exactly identical to the camera of the M3X. And for the thermal one, the M3TG, it goes with a typical Mavic 3 thermal camera with a 48 megapixels smaller size sensor, wide camera, and then having the digital zoom camera as well. Okay, let's just move to the next one. So overall, how is Dock 2 different from the Dock 1? First of all, the lightweight. The size is smaller, not just easy to deploy it, but also easy to ship it. The IP level, we have IP55 for the dock and IP54 for the drone, which means now the whole system is more robust even in difficult environments. Efficiency. The flight time is upgraded to 15 minutes, being able to perform large mapping mission and also being able to do long period patrol. 55 seconds to take off just one click and the drone can initiate the mission you require. Accuracy. Now we have the drone using the timestamp to take the images with RDK as well as large mechanical sensor. Everything you need to do the mapping things is here. Nowadays, the deployments and maintenance will be rather easier. The core components are all modular, which means it's very easy to be replaced or fix it up. Okay, let's just go to the next one. So for the use cases overview, when we talk about the Dock 1 application, most use cases are mainly focusing on public safety and inspection. But for the Dock 2, we can go either mapping or public safety or inspection, depending on the drone you are looking. And today, we are mainly focusing on the agricultural application as we found that there is a huge potential market in this vertical industry. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, and take a So agriculture industry plays a very vital role in Australian economy with an annual export value of around 50 to 60 billion, making up about 10 to 15% of the country's total exports. And from the precision agriculture to automated irrigation system, technology has become an integral part of farming operation. Particularly, drone technology has been a game changer, allowing farmers to monitor crops, assess growth, and manage livestock with a remarkable efficiency, significantly reducing costs and improving productivity. As we continue to embrace this technological advancement, Australia not only strengthens its agriculture productivity, but also ensures its competitiveness in the global market. And next one. And also you can see there are different categories here. You can see that the drone can be applied in different aspects like the livestock, grain, and horticulture. And today, it's our honor to invite Sensorem to give you more insights regarding dock system application in agriculture sector. Now I will hand over the presentation to Sensorem team.
Thanks for the intro, Lumen, and thanks to the team at DJI Enterprise for inviting us to talk about this revolution in drone technology. Hi to everyone watching either live today or via the recording at a later date. So I'm Ed Boxall, Managing Director at Sensorem, and joining me today is my colleague and Sensorem's General Manager, Cooper Smart. G'day, Cooper. So I'll start with some info on Sensorem before we get into the topic for this webinar. So Sensorem is headquartered in Perth, which is the capital city in Western Australia, with staff and operations across Australia, including Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Brisbane. We offer cutting-edge drone and remote sensing technology across multiple sectors, not just agriculture. We also are involved in utilities, critical infrastructure, and mining. We're one of the largest drone as a service providers in Australia, and we're definitely leading the charge with the drone in the box technology. So Sensorem's all-in-one drone-in-a-box solution, which we'll be talking about a bit today, is called SenseHub. It's compact, it's modular, and it's a very powerful solution. So it's designed for flexibility, efficiency, and performance in any environment, which is really important in a country like Australia. We've got large extremes in environmental conditions. It's a modular design, and it's very compact in its footprint. SenseHub is perfect for locations where space is limited, but performance is essential. Whether deployed in remote, industrial, or urban settings, SenseHub is engineered to deliver seamless drone operations without the need for large infrastructure. So at the core of SenseHub is the DJI Dock 2, the state-of-the-art drone system, which we've just seen Lumen describe there, serves as the command center for SenseHub. However, it's also the advanced communications module that sets SenseHub apart. This communications module that is paired with the DJI Dock 2 is packed with cutting-edge features to ensure that you have a robust and reliable remote operations or drone operations. So from November this year, we'll have 20 fully operational SenseHub drone-in-a-box solutions with another 30 systems on track for deployment in early to mid next year. Sensorem as a business was established in 2013 when the drone industry in Australia was probably still in its infancy. Since that time, we've spearheaded some of the most substantial and complex drone projects in Australia. In addition to the DJI Dock 1 and 2 drone-in-a-box systems, we've also got a large fleet of other DJI enterprise drone products. Probably what sets us apart, though, is the amount of flight missions we complete each year, and also the special approvals that we obtain from the regulator in Australia, Civil Aviation Safety Authority, or CASA. In the last 3 years alone, we've completed over 40,000 flights. We've been approved for BVLOS and remote operations via a remote operations center, which we'll just call the ROC from now on. We've also obtained and maintained bars for RPAS accreditation. In our team, we've got remote pilots, engineers, surveyors, data analysts, and project managers, and we obviously love a challenge. From complex bridge inspections to large-scale multi-year telco inspection projects, our mission is to bring the latest drone and remote sensing technologies paired with unique AI-driven software to all industries. After many years of seeing unique and useful tech become available, it really is the drone-in-a-box technology, specifically the DJI products, that's really sparked our interest and certainly will be a focus for us as a business over the coming years. Our hard work in this drone-in-a-box space was recognised by the respected industry advocacy group, the Australian Association for Uncrewed Systems, with Sensorem being announced as the winner of the Industry Champion Innovation Operations Award in March this year in Canberra. So that's just a little bit about Sensorem. So we'll just jump into the topic now. So deploying the DJI Dock 2 on industrial agricultural sites. So just a little bit of a background. Sensorem was approached by DJI Enterprise early last year, early 2023, with the opportunity to trial their yet to be released drone-in-a-box technology, which they called the DJI Dock 1, which is super exciting. We arranged the trial to trial the dock with 2 major clients. One was in the agricultural industry and the other was in the mining industry. Both trials were very successful and demonstrated the benefits of using this unique type of technology. So as we followed on from the trial, our first full deployment was at multiple industrial grain handling sites in regional Western Australia. So grain handling companies play a crucial role, as Lumen said, in the agricultural economy, with over 300 regional grain terminal sites across regional Australia. So one of the main challenges grain handling companies face is bird damage to the tarps covering the grain in the open bulkheads. An OBH, or a bunker as they're sometimes called, they're basically large stockpiles of grain. Birds are obviously a big issue right across the agricultural industry. And these birds, they like to migrate towards where we're storing grain. You can see a lot of grain in this stockpile in this image on the slide here. What they can do is they cause a large amount of damage to the tarps, those blue sections covering the grain stockpile. That leads to damage to those tarps, but also to significant grain loss. So to address this issue, grain handling companies have started to trial the use of drones equipped with speaker systems that emit special pre-programmed sounds. But using the DJI Dock 2 drone-in-a-box technology operated beyond visual line of sight from our remote operations center, the drones and the sounds from the top-mounted speakers, they are enough to scare the birds away from the grain stockpiles and encourage them to move away from that industrial site into the bushlands that surrounds. This approach aims to reduce damage caused by birds, therefore ensuring the integrity of the grain storage facilities. In addition to the bird scaring, which is obviously the primary use case, we then identified a number of other use cases that have significantly improved site efficiencies and productivity and safety. And we're going to talk about some of those use cases later on. So just a bit of an overview of the sites. Let's go to the next slide. So this, I'll just hand across to you, Coops, and you can have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks, Ed. So we just wanted to touch or express the operational footprint that Drone the Box solutions provide clients. So asset owners such as grain handlers that are typically in more remote regional locations and other industrial operators, the Drone the Box solution is able to touch on these far more easily and efficiently. You've got sites that are spread hundreds of kilometers apart. These can all be kind of reached and operated from a single location, such as a remote operations center that may be in a metro location for us here in Subiaco. This enables an increase in operational tasks because you can reach these regional locations more readily without actually having to mobilize out there. So there's an efficiency that can be gained through doing tasks and a safety aspect that's also gained by not having to travel out there. I'll touch on the next slide, but that safety is also a benefit for both the asset owners and the operators and also the service providers such as Sensorem and its team. The true advantage is when you actually see these systems in action and you will complete a operational task or a flight at, say, a location such as Woburn, and then within a couple of minutes you're taking off at a location hundreds of kilometers down the road, down at Darren, for example, and you're now carrying another job, and it was mere minutes away. So the operational footprint is very vast and is only limited by your connection through internet and power, all back to a remote operations center. So it gives you far more reach than ever before. Where this is also expanding is when things like one-to-many operations come into action, where you're able to carry out these tasks at multiple locations in multiple regions. So your operational footprint expands again, and your efficiency also increases. So this has an impact on a lot of areas, but they all kind of fall under that safety, environmental, and quality for both the operators and clients and the service providers. As with any country and any operation, travel of staff via vehicle is often the highest risk, and being able to reduce this significantly, or almost, significantly, there is always some reasons you still need to travel, but you have a major reduction in this, and that's a big safety mitigation across both the service provider and the operators. You can improve your site security and monitoring of what's happening at your sites, be it for asset quality and maintenance, or whether it is site security, which we touch on later on, ensuring that the site is secure and safe. Environmental things can be attributed to this, such as reducing carbon emissions, better asset lifecycle and maintenance management, and as Ed just touched on, the bird scaring, which was an initial issue for this client, reducing bird numbers and being able to use more humane methods of deterrent. Quality is a big one. Being able to increase the frequency in which you do your inspections or operational tasks has a direct link to quality. Removing the timely and costly factor of always having to mobilize and travel to a site, and being able to do more tasks with a remote drone greatly increases the quality, and that's in your asset monitoring and maintenance, stockpile analysis if you're doing volume assessments, and site security. I'll send it back to you, Ed.
Thanks. Yeah, it's amazing just how many over the years, how many times we've seen our remote pilots drive 3 or 4 hours to do a half an hour job, and then 3 or 4 hours driving home. So a whole day traveling in a 4-wheel drive into the middle of nowhere just for a half an hour job. So it's amazing how much time we've been able to save. So Sense Hub, look, this is our it's a communications module. It's packed with cutting edge features and to ensure robust and reliable remote drone operations. And that's the key about this. It's been the equipment, the Dock 2 and the communications module has to be robust and also reliable in a whole pile of types of conditions. So obviously for the DJI Dock 2, it provides improved capabilities compared to the Dock 1, although the Dock 1 was incredible when it first came out. We still have those deployed on site, and they've maintained incredible reliability across a whole range of different weather systems that have come through. So the most important part, though, is just the communication. So having best-in-class satellite connectivity for uninterrupted communications, even in very remote areas. VHF over the internet capabilities, providing seamless long-range communication. So in Australia, with the regulator, it's important that we have VHF comms with manned aircraft. AI-powered CCTV to ensure that we've got advanced tracking, floodlighting, and enhanced security awareness around our sites. Edge computing for real-time on-site data processing, so not having to send stuff back up into the cloud and wait for that to be downloaded, so processing on-site. And then real-time monitoring and uninterrupted power supply, so a UPS for continuous operations, reducing downtime and just ensuring that we've got system reliability. Our system, so if we're sitting here, this is on this image is the Dock 2, and then behind is actually the Dock 1 setup with our comms so all plugged in there, ready to go. You can see the Starlink antenna. It's basically our new Sense Hub system is designed as a plug-and-play functionality. That's really important for a lot of clients. That means that we can, as Lumen mentioned with the Dock 2, we can now streamline the deployment process, minimize setup time. The ease of redeployment also makes it an ideal choice for projects that requiring flexibility. So it allows quick relocation of the system as operational needs evolve. So on an industrial site, often there's changes to buildings. They might be adjusting the way of road. They might be building new infrastructure, and that might require the movement of something like a drone in a box system. So it's got to be able to be moved fairly easily. So this efficiency combined with the system's high level of automation offers scalable solutions for a wide range of industries, from agriculture we're talking about today through to mining, infrastructure, and public safety. So probably one of the most important parts about the system is the flight software. So we can go to that slide. So the Drone in a Box project requires, for our projects, require 24/7 operations. Most of these operations are pre-programmed missions managed through the Flight Hub 2 or Flight Base software. But although most missions can be managed by automated flight paths, our remote pilots do sometimes take advantage of the manual control options in the flight software, together with specifically developed methodologies that ensure that they can achieve the mission. Because although some missions are fully automated to start with, there are some times when you need a remote pilot to be involved hands-on with the controls and maneuver the drone. So whether for us it's moving birds away from stockpiles or maneuvering into position to get that perfect image during a plant building condition assessment. Manual control is also really important to manage flight paths around people on site as well. As these industrial sites, there's a lot of people moving around. It's really important for us that this new technology didn't interrupt the normal site activities. During peak times at these industrial sites, we have arriving trains, we have conveyor belts operating, trucks, front-end loaders, and other maintenance crews, particularly during peak seasons through the middle of the day. At night time, things start to slow down a bit, but most of the drone activity is happening during the day and time. So when our remote pilots cover a large range of missions, including, bird scaring, site monitoring, asset inspection, and then obviously during the night, site security. So there's a lot of activity and use cases that are going on. The site security for the drone technology, even for agriculture, is becoming more of a focus. Not just for industrial sites, but also across a range of different industries, power networks, water authorities, etc. So the Dock2 paired with unique flight management software like Flightbase allows for repeatable, precise flight planning, but also with that option to manually intervene when required. And we're going to be seeing some videos in a minute on how this all works. So we'll just move to this next slide, which just gives a bit of an overview of the regulatory considerations. And we're going to actually have a look at some videos while I chat through this process, because although the actual hardware side of things is fascinating, it's incredibly useful for us. You don't get to that point without some of these regulatory sort of documentation and approvals. So there are things that, things on site that need to be continuously monitored. Most of these relate to any drone in a box projects. Some are particularly unique to the projects that we're operating. Manned aircraft. One of the main considerations is how we managed manned aircraft. Chance of manned aircraft around these sites was pretty low. They're located normally about 100 or so miles from any regional airport. But we were required to submit a NOTAM through the approval process. For us, that ended up being incredibly useful. We actually had military low-level fast jet aircraft that started actually doing training exercises right across these sites, operating at almost exactly the same altitude above the ground as we were operating. So our remote pilots from our remote operations center were able to maintain VHF contact with approaching aircraft through the Sense Hub system. Through the communications box, we're able to cancel any planned drone missions until they cleared the area. So it really did validate some of that on-site comms setup and also the remote operations flight procedures. Weather obviously poses a threat to any drone operation. However, normally a remote pilot on site, if they're physically there controlling the drone through a controller, they can easily assess the current and approaching weather. So they can feel the wind picking up, they can feel that the temperature's increasing, etc. So that can, in our minds, was going to pose a little bit of a challenge, being at a remote operation center hundreds, if not thousands of kilometers away from where the drone was operating. So when we're operating from a remote operations center, the pilot's relying on other tools to assess the weather. So the DJI Dock has excellent weather monitoring, surprisingly accurate. And when you combine that with online apps like Windy Weather and also the predicted wind strength at different levels within the actual flight management software, the remote pilot is always able to get a very clear picture of the overall weather conditions. In fact, it may even be better than being on site. Over the first 6 months of operating the first 6 DJI Dock units, we experienced a range of weather conditions. They were from temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius. For those talking in Fahrenheit, it's about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. We had major squall line of thunderstorms and heavy rain passing through. And the Sense Hub system, both the docks and also our comms boxes, managed incredibly well with absolutely no issues. Situational awareness is obviously really important as well when you start operating this technology. Feedback from our remote pilots is that situational awareness around normal site activities actually ended up being easier from a ROC compared to operating the drone from site, because in a ROC you've got large screens. It's quiet, it's comfortable. You can easily turn up the air conditioner and make it more comfortable. So for takeoff and landing, you're using high resolution cameras in addition to the one provided by the dock and the FPV camera on the actual drone. So these additional cameras enabled really good situational awareness of people and equipment that were operating near the fenced off sort of dock area, particularly during takeoff and landing. So we're currently operating our drone in a box units as one-to-one operations. So one remote pilot to one drone operating. However, with the increasing popularity of drone in a box technology, and definitely for it to remain cost effective for our clients, the one-to-many operations will need to be approved soon. So the flight management software does allow that now. Really, it's about the regulator approving that. We're working through that process at Sensorem now, and this will be a really exciting development early in next year. Also, we've got BVLOS approvals. Before we do anything, you can buy the equipment, you can set up your remote operations center, you can have the DJI Dock 2 ready to go. Before you do anything, you need to secure these BVLOS operations approvals. It's probably one of the most critical and I'd say time-consuming aspects of the planning process. It's multifaceted in the beginning because it involves approval of the BVLOS, but also approval of the remote operations center. So it makes the process doubly complex. Once you get over that initial hurdle, though, of setting up a remote operations center, it does become a little bit easier. For us in the beginning, for any drone as service provider, the regulator, in our case CASA in Australia, requires a physical inspection of the remote operations center. In our case, that's located in our headquarters. Plus, they also need to go to a project site example so they can verify that all the safety and operational requirements or standards are met. So in parallel as well, we've got our BVLOS operations. We needed to have our remote pilots trained up, and they were required to. In Australia, we have a special exam provided by the regulator called the BVLOS OCTA exam, and we had to get all of our pilots through that. So ultimately, achieving BVLOS approvals and combined with setting up a remote operations center plus multiple Sense Hub units was obviously a significant milestone for Sensorem. In hindsight, looking back, it's probably one of the easier things we've done. Ultimately, just due to the fact that we were using such robust and high quality equipment, including the DJI Dock 2. So I think it's probably worth now heading into some of the use cases that we have had in mind when we first started, and some of them we discovered along the way after a few months of operating drone-in-a-box technology. So site security, it's not necessarily something you would imagine that you would need to have on an industrial site in the middle of nowhere. The population of these around these industrial sites is relatively low. We're going to basically bring up a video now that'll show us through what a real deployment of a drone with a thermal camera looks like. So this is operating around one of these grain receival sites at night time. So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, we've got the infrared camera operating. And on the right side, we're actually using the zoom camera paired with a top-mounted lighting system, spotlight system. Incredibly effective operating around these sites. These sites, obviously, at night time, they're generally unmanned. They have a huge amount of infrastructure. So yeah, to be able to detect intruders that are targeting some of these sites, we can use this technology, and you can see how clear it is on the right-hand side. Now we've just started to work with companies like Flightbase with their software, integrating things like AI-powered additional software that's allowing us to automatically do flights and then detect intruders, vehicles, and people. So we'll move on to the next use case. So site monitoring, we have these, as I mentioned before, about 300 grain receival sites around Australia. And if you add into that all of the other agricultural industrial sites, we're talking in the hundreds. So then we've got a number of people managing these sites, multiple sites at the same time. So there'll be a general site manager operating or managing, say, 5 or 6 of these sites. And to drive to each of those is a round trip of about 1,000 or 1,200 kilometres. So to have the ability to see what's going on these large complex sites within a few moments, to be able to call up a drone service provider like Sensorem and say, I need to go and see what's going on with the loading of a train at this particular site, using that as an example. That person doesn't have to get up early in the morning and drive hundreds of kilometres just to go and see something for a few minutes. Then we can land the drone, jump to another site, and then they can do exactly the same thing. So effectively, what would normally have taken 8 or 9 hours of driving around visiting sites is now taking maybe 20 or 30 minutes out of their day. So it really provides valuable oversight, confirming that site activities are progressing as they expected. And if someone reports that there's a site activity that's not in compliance or that needs some advice from a manager or a supervisor, then allows them to jump in and go to a targeted area. Also verifying that maintenance tasks have been done correctly and have been completed. This capability basically helps us, with operational integrity, and also helps prove safety. Gives them an opportunity to validate that safety protocols are being complied with. Go to the next slide. So volume assessments, something that we would typically see in the mining industry, like stockpile calculations. The Doc2 has been an invaluable tool for collecting data, which can be repeated. This is definitely an automated process. These industrial sites contain significant amounts of tonnage of grain. And so being able to keep up with accurate tonnage calculations has been really important for our clients. It truly is an automated process, being able to send the drone out to collect this type of data. Once the drone's landed, it's automatically uploading the data by Starlink. We use the Starlink satellite system into the cloud, and we can then process that within the cloud, or we can then download that into our office, and our survey team can then use other third-party software like Pix4D, etc., to complete the volume calculations. This is all happening while there's activity on sites as well. So the volume calculations being conducted or data collected using a very small drone, like that's been used in the DJI Doc2, really doesn't have any impact on what's going on, on site during busy times. Coops, did you want to run through now some of the site modelling?
Sure. So I guess in conjunction with your volume assessments, specifically the Doc2 with the M3D now, 3D modeling and site digitization becomes far more accurate and easy to do. This provides two benefits for the two different parties. The asset owners and operators have better up-to-date site conditions, gives them 3D context to what is actually going on if they need to share information with other stakeholders or representatives within their company. They need to, they're trying to explain something that may have occurred and someone hasn't been to this remote location. Touching on the vastness of these remote locations, it's sometimes hard to get a whole group of key people together and travel hours into a location, whereas these 3D models or digital representations allow people to express, share, and articulate what's going on with a bit more context. This also helps with planning for both internal and external parties or contractors. You can have a Teams meeting and kind of discuss planning and scheduling prior to actually having to go out, and that can be done far more efficiently. This is kind of seen across all industries, but having the docs on site is able to kind of do this a little bit more routinely. So you can almost do a 3D model flight weekly, monthly, whatever you may set the interval as, and that allows you to keep up to date. So on such sites as grain handlers that are during peak seasons very busy and there's a lot of things happening, it's quite easy to do this and provide more of a real-time digital representation. The other advantages of the DJI framework and architecture is that you can upload your data into the cloud, and you can use very good and easy to use software such as DJI Terra to produce excellent 3D models, and then load that back into your flight planning software or onto your client. And the advantage in the flight planning software is it provides great context to the BVLOS pilots. So if they are to carry out an operational task or a mission and something has changed on site, the 3D model will capture that. You can look for, it provides more situational awareness for any kind of impacts or risks that may be associated. So yeah, it's a very good planning and risk mitigation tool with this 3D modeling. Touch on now the bird scaring, and I've got a little video to share as well.
Cool. So yeah, bird scaring is one of the original use cases and why we kind of originally kind of got involved with the projects in agriculture. As mentioned before, birds are a major issue in the agricultural sector across the whole of the agricultural sector, but we're going to see an example here with the amount of birds, in this case corellas, that do gather around these grain receival sites. You can see where they're basically trying to target an open area of grain, and then the tarps that are sitting next door. So we're talking thousands of birds every day, so sitting on top of the tarps. So to be able to integrate some third-party speaker spotlight systems on top of the docks has been really, on top of the drones that we had with our systems, has been absolutely crucial. Really good for just scaring the birds away. Traditionally, they would tend to be a little bit scared of the drone itself, just the noise from the drone. But as the drones get smaller, quieter, then implementing these speaker systems has been really crucial. So we can obviously use the speaker systems for other types of use cases. So alerting people of some issues. So if there's been a problem on site, we can actually use the speaker systems to talk to people. We can use the spotlight systems for other use cases like night security, which we saw before. Just gives you a bit of an idea in this graph here is when we count birds, just to show how there's been a reduction in the birds over time. So that's been a really successful use case. Cooper, I'll let you talk about the asset inspection, given that you're an engineer by trade.
So I guess, as we know, with one of the big advantages with all drones, and specifically the DJI drones that do this very, very well, is asset inspection. They're used far and wide for this with their great cameras and gimbals and other, additions to payloads such as the thermal. With the DJI dock now, you're just able to do this more frequently. That just provides the clients with more information on a higher frequency to make better judgments. They can start to do a bit more trend analysis. In this video here, it does provide site managers who probably weren't ones to go, hey, I'm an engineer or an asset maintenance person, but I need to know something that's going on with my site. And it could be something as simple as, has that asset got, or that tool got, the right signage? Has it got a fire extinguisher attached to it? Has it got whatever it may be? And the drone in a box solution now allows them to quite easily task a flight to go and check on something. Coupled with that, where we did see in these remote locations, it mentioned on storms and the impacts of damage, you're able to routinely, quickly go and verify whether a site is ready to kind of come back online. So often they may lose power, they kind of go into a dormant situation or into a weather dormant situation. You go and task the drone to go and do a quick site check, verify that most things are okay, and then they maybe carry out a specific assets or maintenance check on certain areas that there are known potential issues. So sheep cladding, gantries, walkways, and then that can all be fed back, and then the teams can then mobilize back out to site and get back into operation. Features such as the AI spot check and the thermography of the drones, they're all available within the Dock 1 and Dock 2 systems, which is excellent. So basically all of our normal tasks are just bundled back into the dock, and it just makes it a very usable and diverse tool now.
So yeah, I suppose just in conclusion, thanks everyone for watching today. I hope you found it really useful. For us, the DJI dock has been very successful. We've achieved all the outcomes we planned plus more. On some of these sites we planned, or at least the client had planned to just achieve one use case and then be able to include all of these other use cases, has made this incredibly cost effective and a useful tool. These projects now obviously continue to expand rapidly, particularly for a company like us. We've been able to prove the technology. It demonstrates that if you've got the right people, the right attitude, but particularly the right technology, both the hardware and the software, the drone in a box can be very useful across a vast range of different industries. So areas where drone technology was useful previously, however it wasn't cost effective, we'll see this new tech as a game changer. And the example I use of these sites is where we needed to collect 5 minutes of video, or we needed to collect 2 images. It was not worth someone driving all the way out with a drone to complete that project. So now we're seeing this technology it definitely is a game changer. So the DJI dock systems, it's proven that drone in a box systems are definitely here to stay. And to be honest, in my personal view, and I've been in the industry for a while, this will be probably the biggest and the most positive change in the drone industry for some time. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I think we're going to be moving into some question and answers session now. And so I'm just having a look at some of the questions that have been submitted. Thank you everyone for submitting your questions. We'll see if we can get through. There's quite a large number of questions. So the birds. Okay, so there's a question from Matt. Native birds require permits to interact with you. Have you been able to secure them? Very good question, Matt. So we were dealing quite closely within our the client's sort of pre-planning phase. We dealt with a lot of the environmental teams within our clients' businesses and native birds. In our case, the black cockatoo is a protected species in Western Australia. So to mitigate the interaction with them, we ensured that we were viewing the live stream, and if we ever saw black cockatoos, we would then land the drone and report that through to their environmental team. So yeah, that's a really good question. So it's about just monitoring the live stream, keeping an eye on those protected birds that are in and around these sites naturally. 99.99% of the time, they were birds that didn't require protection. Luke, question from Luke. Looks like Lumen's answered that. There is a third party. It's about the spotlight on. Was that the spotlight on the M30T or the M3DT? That was the M30T, and Lumen, I think you've answered that question.
And for the spotlights, we have some third-party partner who is mainly works on that. So if you want the name, I can send you an email.
Have we ever had any problems with people trying to steal the drone or the whole system, especially in a remote area? That's a great question. So that were my thoughts originally, and I had some concerns about how that might work. So really it's about having, it's not just the DJI dock. The DJI dock has to be paired with other technologies, in our case, a custom-built communications cabinet or module, and contained within that module is advanced CCTV cameras with spotlight systems and AI-powered detection. So if someone, a vehicle or a person moves around the site, then the camera comes on, it follows that person, the spotlights come on if it's nighttime. Also, most of these sites, being industrial sites, as you can imagine, they're quite protected regardless. These sites have fencing and site security outside anyway. So, but it's a great question. Being in remote areas, and often these sites are accessible to the general public. If they're unmanned, people could get access to sites, but Typically, they're interested in stealing other things on site rather than the drone, because there's not a huge amount you can do with the Dock 2. Once you've taken it, it would be pretty easy to identify where that was flying. But it definitely crossed our mind.
There was a good question. How do you find the differences / usability between Flightbase and FlightHub 2? I think they both have their benefits in place. Do you want to talk about that, or I was?
Yeah. I think Flightbase and FlightHub 2, they're both excellent flight management software. And DJI are very supportive. Lumen might want to comment on this. DJI Enterprise are very supportive of the Flightbase software. We've been using both. The flight-based software does allow significant integration, and that's continuing to grow. And I think that's why DJI supports that software. So, for example, we have an edge computing device that's being deployed at one of our live operational sites, and that will be connected through Flightbase, and then is using the AI powered software within that edge computing device to do the automatic live detection of intruders. So they by all accounts look very similar, and they've got a whole pile of very incredibly useful features. So I think someone using FlightHub 2 and then transitioning across to Flightbase or backwards and forwards, they'll find that incredibly easy, and that's certainly the feedback that we've received.
And I think that links across to another question here. Someone asked, if the bird control, does the pilot need to manually fly every time, or are there AI softwares to chase the birds? In that specific case, AI detection for bird chasing would be quite complex. It's a mix between automated and manual flight control. I would say 80 or the majority is 80% is automated flight, and if the pilots have time, or there's a problem site or a large volume of birds, they may take up a manual control. But that is probably the advantage of both those softwares, that readily available option to take over manual control. Where this links back to probably Flightbase is that on other use cases, whether it's maybe security, tracking, call and response, triggered events, you're able to use those integrations or AI detection to either trigger the drone to carry out a task or follow a unit. So there are AI integrations that have benefits.
I think we have time just for another two more questions, if that's okay, Lumen. So one question, can the dock system be fastened down so it can't be tampered with? That's a really good question. So our SenseHub solution, we actually have the system bolted down to a concrete foundation, which is about the same size. It's been custom designed for being able to be moved very easily using a forklift or some other sort of a small crane, etc., on site, but too difficult for someone to try and pick it up with a vehicle. So it's just that fine balance, making sure that you can easily move it around site if need be, but also not too easy, because the one benefit obviously of the Dock 2 is that it's really lightweight compared to the Dock 1, so it can be moved, but once it's on site, you want to make sure that it doesn't move anywhere. And one last question, have you ever had any issues with power outages on site? That is a fantastic question. We offer our solution with both connections to mains power, but also to solar for some of those really remote sites, or where mains power can be a bit iffy, particularly during storm events, etc. We have had major storms come through that have cut power to sites that are connected to mains. However, the dock and our comms unit have both got backup power supply. So that's really important to remember for these systems. The DJI Dock 2 has a backup UPS in there, so it will continue to operate even if power supply is cut for a short period of time, certainly long enough for the drone to return home. Our comms unit as well, which is part of the SenseHub solution, also has a backup power supply, certainly long enough to do a return to home and to be able to constantly see the live stream that powers the CCTV and satellite systems, VHF comms, etc., for long enough for it to come back and land. And then the dock doors close, and then we can then shut off that system and wait for the storm to pass. So yeah, that's been an incredibly useful tool, and we've tested that out a few times over the last 12 months.
Yeah, considering of the time, I think we can wrap up here. We still can see some questions here, and we will answer the questions one by one after this webinar. And if you have any further questions, just feel free to reach out to us, and we are keen to help you to answer all your questions. Yeah. And thanks for attending to this webinar, guys, and hope you have a good day. Thank you. Yeah, see you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.